what we're going to do, friends, is turn to Paige in California. Paige wants to talk about what she believes. And so let's talk to Paige. Paige, you are on with Jimmy, Jim, and Jamie. Say that
Hello.
5 times fast. Hey, how are you?
Fine. Yeah, I just thought, well, you guys kept telling me to call in, so here I am.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Are you the person we were talking to in the chat?
Think Celestial.
Ah, wonderful. Thank you so much. Welcome. You are among friends, regardless of what you believe. And so with that, we've got this little caption here from when you were talking to the call screeners, and you had said, hey, you're not an apologist, but you can tell us, what you know and what your theories are about punishment. And so that's really interesting. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on punishment.
Okay. First of all, you were talking, most of the examples that you gave were from Mosaic law, which was the Old Testament. Am I right? I'm not positive, but I think
I'll leave that to Jim, actually. Jim gave the intro, so.
Yeah, I mean, most of those were from the Old Testament, but that's really kind of irrelevant because Christ did not come to change the law one jot or one tittle. So those are still in effect. And that's really, I don't think, very debatable at all. But anyway, go ahead.
Actually, I don't really know how to debate that, but no, they are not still in effect. Jesus Christ actually did fulfill the Mosaic law. And
he didn't change it. He fulfilled it, but he didn't change it, which is my point, right? It's literally one jot, one tittle.
You're talking over me. Why would we still have to do works like that if it wasn't fulfilled? But I can even tell you if you just want to.
Well, so you're disagreeing with Matthew 5:18.
What about Matthew 5:18?
You're disagreeing with Matthew 5:18, which says, "For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished." So until the end of the world, Mosaic law still applies.
Okay, well, that's your opinion, and you.
No, it's not my opinion. I'm literally reading to you from the Bible. That is what the Bible says.
Well, I don't have the Bible in front of me. Like I said, I'm not a Bible scholar or anything like that, so I don't know everything that's in the Bible, and I don't want to spend the time checking while I'm talking to you, but I would like to talk about punishment in general. It doesn't really have to do with the Mosaic law, but you were talking about punishment, and is it just or moral, I think is what your question was. And I would say God is our Father, okay? And he loves us so much that he wants to help us to learn and progress to become more like him.
And is beating children with a rod a good way to do that?
I don't know. But this is what I would.
Well, 1 Samuel 7:14 says, and I quote, "I will be a father to him, and he will be a son to me. When he commits iniquity, I will correct him with the rod of men and the strokes of the sons of men." Seems to me that beating your child is absolutely okay with God.
It's not about specific examples that are mentioned in the scriptures, but it's about what would you do if you had a naughty child that did not make wise choices, but you love and wanted them. You love them. You want them to make better choices. You want them to be smarter without taking away their free agency. Then what?
And there are better ways than beating the crap out of them or beating them at all to do that. You can understand where they're coming from. You can send them to their room if you have to. But beating a child is not a good thing. It is not a loving thing. If somebody hits you, they hate you. Unless it's combat sports, which is a whole different thing. But as a general rule, if somebody hits you, they hate you.
Can I give Paige can I make a distinction real quick? And just kind of let's are you okay?
That's not me.
That's coming from me.
Okay,
That's coming from me.
All right, so Paige, so listen, like I have a son, right? I have a daughter too, but my daughter's older. My son is the one who I'm teaching to behave. At least I'm trying. I don't hit my son. And I wouldn't do to my son some of the things that are suggested in the Bible. And through trial and error, I have kind of learned things that are better and things that are not so good in raising him. Now, here's the thing. You make the claim that God is doing the same thing with us. The thing is, though, I have got no basis for God.
The same thing that those people did.
But hold on one sec. Hold on one sec. So I have no basis, right, to judge whether God is here and actively guiding me, right? Like there is no proof whatsoever that God is involved in my life and giving me leadership and giving me guidance the same way that I'm doing to my child. And there's a significant difference in the way that I have learned to handle my responsibilities as a parent versus the way, since there is no proof that God is actually present in my life, and I turn to the Bible and say, okay, well, God, what do you want me to do? And the result is stone the children, beat the children, call your children names in the town square, and bring them in front of a group of elders and strangers. These things don't comport with reality. So I just want to ask you now, so how is it that you know that God is A, our Father, right? Our loving Father, and B, has any impact on the choices we make or the behaviors that we enact?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I did put a question in the chat about a mathematical question proving that there is a God and he does love us, but I don't want to change the subject. I want to stay on what we're talking about.
Well, we're talking about punishment, right? We're talking about punishment, right? And basically what we're saying. Well, I'm not letting you change the subject either,
I'm
so
not.
okay, so
I don't want to change the subject. So
but
wanting to talk about punishment, which you're.
But it's important that Jim made a distinction. Jim made a distinction about punishment that comes from God, which kind of contrasts this idea that God loves us. And then I made a distinction about punishment that comes from God and the way that, God essentially wants us to punish people, but the way that it actually is fruitful.
Yes, there is a way that it's actually fruitful. And if a person does a certain thing, there's a consequence to that action. Now, they usually are in alignment with how bad was it, how stupid was it, and how awful was it. And so I don't know all of those different things that people did, but I can say, like, for instance, punishing somebody, killing somebody I didn't think God did that, but I looked it up and he did say that. So that was part of the Mosaic law that we do not practice anymore.
Well, Paige,
that was part of the law to look towards Jesus Christ. He wanted to give them a very strict law to look towards Jesus Christ and his atonement so that they would keep busy because they were so bad before that. If you read in Exodus how bad they were when Moses went up.
We've read it.
They were super bad. They had to be told what to do because they didn't have their own.
Paige, are you still there? All right. Paige, you cut out. Hey, Jamie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Oh, okay. So, Jim.
Oh, I muted her. I'm sorry. I muted her because I thought she wasn't listening to me, but I was on mute. I'm unmuting her now. I apologize for that, Paige. You couldn't hear me because I had muted myself. Matthew 17:18 says, quite frankly, do not think, this is Jesus talking, do not think that I came to abolish the law or the prophets.
You already said that.
Right. And so every time you say Mosaic law doesn't apply, you are going against what Jesus himself said.
But and I've got a problem there too. And I want to turn it over to Jamie and get his thoughts. But Paige, you have just admitted that you don't know what's in the Bible. You know, that is a huge problem to have.
I have a general
You did.
idea.
You just, a general idea doesn't support what's required of you as a Christian.
I told you that I didn't know the Bible, and you still wanted me to call in, so I can hang.
I'll tell you, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But to suggest that we read Exodus, we already have read Exodus. But I'm going to turn this over to Jamie and get his inputs here.
I explained it. I didn't say you have to go there right now and read it. I explained what I was talking about.
Okay. So, Paige, I'm just going to take everything you've said on your word for the sake of argument that God is the Father of all and loves us and wants the best for us. Okay? Yeah. I'm not going to argue with that. I'm also I know that you don't follow the Mosaic law because you're not in prison. So, so we can sort of put that to the side for the moment. Mm-hmm. And these questions I'm about to ask you are not gotcha questions. These are just to gauge where we're at. So I, as an atheist, I do not believe that God is real. I do not follow any of the teachings directly. I may tangentially do so just as a matter of coincidence. But I do not worship. I do not feel that he's real. And I have many, many criticisms of the character of God as described in the Bible. However, do you believe that if I stay this way until the day that I die, that I am destined to face the ultimate punishment of damnation?
Well, the ultimate punishment of damnation is probably different to different people, so I'm not exactly sure what you think of that, but I think is that people on the earth, we're here to learn. You know, we're here to become smarter, more intelligent, better people. And if we don't learn and we make bad choices, then we will, if we cause other people to suffer, we will have to actually suffer that ourselves after this life.
Paige, whoa. Give me a second.
I don't think it's for eternity either.
Okay, so you don't believe it's eternal. That was going to be my next point, because I don't believe that eternal punishment is moral in any case. I can't name any given.
That's what I said.
Yeah,
it's
horrific
not eternal,
person.
even though it does say eternal.
So here's the problem that we're having, Paige, is that you seem to have this customized version of a Christian faith that does not comport with the instruction book. Like, you've bought a set of IKEA shelves, briefly looked at the instruction book, we go, I know what shelves look like, and kind of built it yourself your own way.
No, I read the scriptures every day.
Okay.
But you just said, but you obviously haven't, because you don't know what Matthew 5:17 through 19 says about whether or not Mosaic law still applies. I mean, Matthew 19 goes a little bit further. Whoever then annuls one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever keeps and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So you say you've read it, and yet we quote you these things, and you're like, oh my God, I didn't read that. I didn't know that. And you keep saying that the Mosaic law doesn't exist.
So I think we lost Paige. I don't know if Paige hung up. I did sense some frustration with her, in her voice, and really was grateful that she called. Especially coming from the YouTube channel or the live chat, I should say. Often people will kind of troll the live chat and not show up, but she did. And Paige, if you're watching this, I really appreciate that. Guys, I think it was pretty obvious that she didn't, and she didn't read the scriptures. And Jamie, I liked your kind of packaging there. She's got her own IKEA, custom made version of the Bible. And clearly, this idea of punishment that God puts forth, well, it isn't practical. It isn't practical in today's world, or at least, among people who consider themselves moral parental figures. It isn't practical when it comes to justice, throwing somebody in hell. That's justice. I don't think so. And then to claim, I have a general understanding of what's in the Bible versus I read the scriptures every day, that makes the conversation difficult, because if you can't be honest about it, then we can't have an honest conversation. And so those are just some reflections there. Jim, I wanted to get your thoughts on how that call went.
Well, this is kind of the problem with a lot of these Christian light folks who have been given a version of the Bible that just doesn't exist, right? And so when you call them on it, and especially the people who say, well, Mosaic law doesn't apply, and then you call them on Matthew 5, 17 through 19, and they can't handle it, because now they realize that, oh my God, all these horrible things that were done that we now think are immoral. We didn't touch on slavery. We didn't touch on genocide. We didn't touch on anybody who, David's wives being punished for something he did, punished by sexual assault at that. There are all these things that all of a sudden come up. And if you want to say, and punishment is not the same, because punishment does work, it is effective. But what doesn't work is beating your child. What doesn't work is stoning them to death. And these are things that as a Christian, you have to wrestle with in order to figure out. And going, well, God made a new covenant, the old law doesn't apply, doesn't work either. Because Matthew's really clear about that it's not the case. That law will apply. Yeah,
the part about slavery when it comes to the Mosaic law not applying, I always turn to the fact, I think it was Matthew 12, don't quote me on the chapter, but where he heals the centurion's slave. And I'm like, well, why didn't he just free the slave? Why did he heal the centurion's slave? Why does this person continue? Why do they get healed so that they can continue to live a life of servitude and probably oppression? But that's something that I like to bring up. Jamie, great, handling of that caller. I liked you taking a different approach, because I think, it's easy to kind of get worked up in these things. How do you feel that went?
I'm a bit disappointed, because I was fascinated to find out. I actually wanted to, before wanting to sort of put my opinion on it, I'd be fascinated to try and actually glean what she meant. Maybe get some examples of what punishment is in her eyes. Like what is my punishment for non-belief going to be, if any? I got her to say that it's not going to be eternal, which I'm glad of. I mean, as I say, like, eternal punishment for finite crimes. Point to anyone in history, the worst people still not moral. But the fact is that that may have been a conversation. The conversation I wanted to have may not have been appropriate or practical in this format. But I wanted to know. I would love to have known what she hoped to get out of the call. What would be her ideal denouement for this conversation to be having with us, and is there any path that we could make to get close to that conclusion for her, or is it just an impasse that we're going to have? But maybe she'll call in again, hopefully, or she'll be brave enough to call in when I'm on main host duty, and I can have a longer conversation with her. But we'll see.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, she's in chat complaining that we hung up on her. No, I muted you thinking that you weren't listening to me, not realizing that I was in fact muted, because there's a lot of background noise on my side. So I muted myself, and I forgot, and I muted you. That was a mistake on my part. However, we did not hang up on you.
She came back after that mute debacle. She came back and we continued the conversation, and I thought it was a good conversation.
But I just wanted to be clear that is what happened, and that we did not hang up on her at all. Not the host didn't. Yeah, the host did not.
That would have been a technical issue, because I didn't have my hands anywhere near the controls. So apologies, Paige. Again, and I would like to say you were very brave to come up and talk to us, and you were facing a flipping the council of James here, the three-headed beast.